Hello everyone, hello. Welcome back to Dijonae Jaynae Educational Channel. What we're going to be looking at today in our math hour is that we're going to be looking at dividing decimals by decimals. All right, so if you know how to do division, this should not be hard for you. All right, so the first thing we are going to do is to look at the problem. All right, the problem that we are going to be working this morning is 6.91 divided by 0.2. That's the first problem we're going to be working this morning. All right, when you are dividing decimals by decimals, there are some things that you must do first. First, you have to identify the different parts of this division problem. 0.2 is known as your divisor, and of course, 6.91 is known as your dividend. All right, so when dividing a decimal, or when you're dividing decimals, this is the dividend. This is your divisor, as I said earlier. So let's go into it now. When dividing by decimals, the divisor must always be changed to a whole number. Remember, this is your divisor and it is now decimal. You must change it to a whole number. And how are we going to do this? This must be done by multiplying the divisor by the power of 10, which is to make it a whole number. All right? And the same thing that you do for your divisor, you must also do it for your dividend. All right, so let's go ahead and let me show you what I'm talking about. All right, this is the first thing you must do. All right, so I'm going to take my divisor, which is 0.2, and of course I'm going to be multiplying it by powers of 10. All right, so the first thing you are going to do is to check to see how many decimal places you have after your decimal point. All right, in this case, you only have one decimal place. All right, you have one decimal place. So I'm going to multiply by 10 right here. And of course, when you multiply, this is how you go ahead and do it. All right, so first, you are going to write, you have different ways of working this. All right, but this is a very simple way that I'm going to be showing you. All right, so the first thing you are going to do is to multiply. Look what I'm doing now. I'm going to take my 0.2. Look at me carefully. I'm going to take it and I'm going to write it back without the decimal place. 0, 2, and of course, because I'm multiplying by powers of 10, I'm going to write my 0 back. All right, but then I'm going to check to see how many decimal places we have right here. We only have what? One decimal place. So I'm going to put my decimal place in. I'm going to put it right here. So in this case now, we have 0, 2.0, which is the same thing as 2. All right. So remember, whatever you do to your divisor, you must also do it to your dividend. All right. So I'm going to take my dividend. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to multiply by 10. So I'm going to write it here. 6.91. And of course, I'm going to multiply by 10. All right. Remember, I'm going to write back my 691 without the decimal place. I'm going to put a 0 right here because I'm multiplying by the power of 10. And of course, I'm going to put my decimal place. How many decimal places we have right here? We have 2. So I'm going to put my points right here. So as I said, there are more than one ways in which we can also do it. And of course, remember now, if you were doing the method where you move, all right, so you remember that when you're multiplying by 10, of course, you move to your right. So we have 1 So we would move 1 places, which would still give you that. All right. So it depends on what method you use. All right. You would still get the same answer. All right. So let's go ahead now and rewrite the problem that we have to work. All right. So this is the problem that we have working with. So I'm going to rewrite it. So now we have 69.1, and of course we're dividing by 2. All right. So now you realize that our divisor is now a whole number. All right. So now we're going to go right ahead, and of course we're going to work this problem. First, you have to set out your problem, right? I'm going to go right ahead, and of course I'm going to set the problem out. So 69.1 is known as your, of course it is your dividend. Let me write it right here. D-I-V-I-D-E-N-T. That's your dividend. All right. And of course, we're going to solve to find our quotient. All right. And that is Q-U-O, Q-U-O-T-I-E-N-T. That's your quotient. Your quotient is the same thing as your answer. All right. So let's go right ahead and of course continue working this problem. All right, so let's go right into it now. Remember, our divisor is 2. All right, so this is our divisor. So let's go right ahead and work this division problem. So first, you're going to ask yourself, how many groups of 2s can you get from 6? Of course, you can only get 3 groups. All right. Also, the next step is that you're going to multiply this 3 by this 2, and you're going to get 6. You're going to draw your line, and of course, you're going to take away. So that's the next step. You have 16, you give away all 6 of it. Of course, you have 0 left. So you're going to bring down the next digit that is in line. All right. And of course, that is the 9, which is in the 1's place. How many groups of 2s can you get from 9? Of course, you can get 4 groups, right? Put my 4 right there. And of course, you're going to take this 4, multiply it by 2. And of course, you're going to get 8. Put my 8 there, draw my line, take away. All right? So the next thing you're going to do, you have 9 things and you give away 8. You are left with 1. What next? Look to see if you can get a group of 2 from 1. You can't. Look to see what is next. Of course, we have a decimal place that is in line. And of course, I'm going to put it back right there. Look to see what is next. And of course, we have number 1 that is next. And I'm going to bring it down right beside this one. And now it is going to become 11. Ask yourself, how many groups of 2s can you get from 11? Of course, you can get 5 groups. I'll put my 5 there. Then I'm going to take this 5 and multiply it by 2. And I'm going to get 10. Draw your line and take away. All right. You have 11 things and you give away 10. You are left with 1. Remember, we are using decimal right here. So because we're using decimal, I'm going to just add 0 right here. And then I'm going to continue with my division. 2 into 10. How many groups of 2s can you get from 10? Of course, you can get 5 groups. And of course, 5 multiplied by 2 is going to give you 10. Draw your line, take away. You have 10 things, you give away all 10 of it, you have 0 left. All right, so that is that for this division problem. All right, so what we're going to do next, we're going to go right ahead and we're going to prove to see if our answer is correct. All right, so let's go ahead and do that now. I'm going to write prove answer, right? P-R-O-V-E, and of course, answer A-N-S-W-E-R. So that's what I'm going to be doing over this time. I'm going to be proving my answer right there. So how am I going to go about proving my answer? Of course, I'm going to multiply my quotient, which is my answer, by my divisor. So I'm going to take it right here. So I'm going to have 34.55, and I'm going to multiply it by 2. All right? So let's go right ahead and work this problem. So you have 5 multiplied by 2 is 10. And of course, 10 is a 2-digit number. But when you're multiplying by a decimal, there are some things that you must do. All right? The first thing you are going to do is to check to see how many decimal places you have after your decimal point. And of course, we have 2 decimal places. So the first thing I'm going to do is to put down my decimal. You see, I'm lining up my decimal in my product with the one that I have in my multiplicand. All right, so let's go ahead and work. I'm going to take this 5 multiplied by 2, and of course that's 10. I'm going to put down my 0 and carry my 1 over to my 10th place. All right, I'm going to take this 5 multiplied by 2, and of course I'm going to get 10, and 10 plus 1, you are going to get 11. I'm going to put down the 1 and carry 1 over to my 1th place. The next thing we are going to do is that we're going to take this 4 and multiply it by 2. And 4 multiplied by 2, you are going to get 8. And 8 plus 1, you are going to get 9. Going to take this 3 multiplied by 2. And of course, you're going to get 6. And of course, that is your product. And the product in a multiplication problem is the same thing you call your answer. So let me write the word product right here. And that is P-R-O-T-U-C-T. All right? Your answer in your multiplication problem is called your product. All right? So let's check to see if our product and our dividend is the same thing. We have 69.10 and we have 69.1. So the 0 at the end is just as a placeholder, right? It is the same thing. So that is telling us that our problem was correctly done. All right? So look at it carefully, and then we're going to go right ahead and work another problem. So I'm going to give you some time to look at it, and then I'm going to go right ahead, and of course, I'm going to erase it. All right, so I'm going to erase it, and we're going to take our next problem. All right, I'm going to go right ahead now, and of course, I'm going to erase this problem. All right, so we're going to take the next problem. The next problem we have is that we have 0.63, 0.63, and of course, we're dividing by 0.07. All right, so as I said, the first thing we do is to try to identify the different parts that we have working with. And of course, 0.63 is known as your dividend, and 0.07 is known as your divisor. We are to solve this to find our quotient, which is our answer. All right, so the first thing you're going to do is to take your divisor, and that is 0.07, and that's our divisor. All right, so now we are going to multiply our divisor by powers of 10. All right, so here we have our divisor. We are going to multiply it by 100. All right, so let's go right ahead. All right, so how do I know what to multiply it by? All right, so we have 1, 2 digits after our decimal place. So that is telling us that the 7 now is in our 100th place. All right, so we're going to multiply by 100 right here. And of course, remember this is multiplication that we're doing. So our multiplier is 100. And of course, 0.01 is known as our multiplicand. All right, to solve this, we're going to write back our multiplicand. All right, so we're going to write it back without the decimal place. Write back our multiplicand 0.07. And of course, we are multiplying by 100. So we're just going to write the 2 zeros. All right, so as I said, this is an easy way of working this problem. All right, the next step is that we're going to check to see in our multiplicand how many digits we have after our decimal place. And we have 1, 2. All right, so we're going to put our decimal place right here where we have 2 digits coming after our decimal place. All right, so right here it is going to be 7. Right here we're going to have 7 as our divisor. All right, because 0.07 is the same thing as 7. All right, so let's go ahead now and do the same thing for our dividend. All right, so take our dividend now, which is 0.63. And of course, we're going to multiply it by 100 as well. Remember, the same thing you do to your divisor, that's the same thing you're going to do for your dividend. All right. So I'm going to write back my multiplicand, which is 0.63. And of course, I'm writing it without the decimal place. I'm going to add the 2 zeros right here. And of course, I'm going to check to see how many decimal places we have after our decimal point, and we have 2. So we're going to make sure that in our answer, we have 2 digits as well after our decimal place. All right. So now we're going to rewrite the problem so we see what is it that we have working with. All right. So I'm going to rewrite it for you. So we have, in this case, we have 0.63.00. All right. And of course, we're dividing by 7. So if you look carefully, you realize now that our 7 is now a whole number, which is the aim. All right. So let's go right ahead and work this problem. All right. So let's go right ahead. Let's go right ahead and watch. All right. Watch to see what I am doing right here. All right, so I'm going to go right ahead and set the problem out. That's the first thing. All right, so remember, 0.63.00 is our dividend, and 7 is our divisor. All right, so what we are going to do next, say to yourself, how many groups of 7 can you get from 0? You can't get a group of 7 from 0. So I'm going to put 0 right there to say we can't. All right, so the next thing we're going to do to look for the digit that is in line next, which is the 6, and you're going to say, how many groups of 7 can you get from 6? You can't. So I'm going to put a 0 as well to say I can't. Now I'm going to look to see which digit is next in line, which is 3, and I'm going to say, all right, 6 and 3, when you put them together, you are going to get 63. All right? So ask yourself now, how many groups of 7 you can get from 63? All right? And of course, you can get how much? You can get 9. Of course, you can get 9 groups. All right? So I'm going to put my 9 right there. And now you're going to multiply 9 by 7 or 7 by 9. You are going to get 63. Look where I'm putting my 63. Draw my line. And of course, I'm going to take away. All right? So now I have 63 and I give away all 63. I'm going to have 0 left. Look to see what is next, which is my decimal place. Then I'm going to write it back. Look to see the digit that is next. And of course, I'm going to bring it down, which is my 0. All right? So can I get a group of 7 from 0? No. So I'm going to say no by writing 0 right here. I'm going to look to see what next. And I'm going to bring down the next digit, which is the next 0. And of course, can I get a group of 7 from that 0? And of course, no. So I'm going to say 0 right here to say no. All right? So, of course, we're finished with this problem. And of course, our quotient is 9. It is 9. Because 009.00 is the same thing as 9. All right? So let's go right ahead and prove our answer to see if it is right. When you multiply your quotient by your divisor, you should get back your dividend. And if you get back your dividend, that is telling us that our answer is correct. Let's go ahead and prove. All right, so let's work it. I'm going to prove it right here. So of course, I'm going to take 009.00 and I'm going to multiply by 7. All right, go right ahead and work it. All right, so let's see what we do next. We're going to put our decimal point down, because remember we're multiplying by decimal. And of course, the next thing we're going to do is to check to see how many digits we have after our decimal place, which is 2. So you must make sure that only 2 digits fall in your product. All right, and your product is your answer in a multiplication problem. So you're going to take 0 multiplied by 7, you have 0. Any number you multiply by 0, of course, you are going to get 0. All right, so 7 multiplied by 0 again is 0. Then you're going to take 7 and multiply it by 9. And of course, 7 multiplied by 9 gives you 63. 63 is a 2-digit number. So I'm going to put down my 3 and I'm going to carry my 6. My 6 over to my 10th place. All right, so the next thing, let me write my 6 properly so you can see clearly. All right, so look at my 6. All right. So the next thing you're going to do is to say 7 multiplied by 0. And of course, that is 0. And 0 plus 6, you get 6. All right, so I'm going to bring down my 6. The next thing, you're going to take this 0 multiplied by 7. And of course, you are going to get 0. So let's check to see if our product right here is the same thing as our dividend. So we have 0.6300. All right, 0.6300. So this is telling us that our working is done. All right, so let's go right ahead. And of course, let me give you some time for you to look at this problem. All right. Welcome to all the persons who are here. And of course, we have with us, and we have the beautiful persons that are watching with us. Thank you for coming on over. All right. So we're going to go right ahead, and of course, we are going to erase this problem, and of course, we're going to take another one. Remember now, we are dividing by decimal, we're dividing by decimal. So we must ensure that we change our divisor from decimal to a whole number. All right? And remember, whatever power of 10 we use to multiply our divisor, that's the same power of 10 we must use to multiply our dividend. All right? So let's work another one. So that, remember, when you're multiplied by power of 10, you have different methods that you can use. All right? You have different methods. All right, so I'm going to show you a next one that you can use. All right, so let's go right ahead and take the next problem. So the problem that we're going to be working now is that we're going to take 0.48, and of course we're going to divide it by 0.04. All right, let's write it down. 0.48, and of course we're dividing by 0.04. All right, so in this problem, we have 0.48, which is our dividend, and of course 0.04 is our divisor. So we are going to take our divisor, and of course we are going to multiply it, right? So I'm going to write it down, 0.04, and of course I am going to multiply it by 100. The 4 is in the 100th place, and I'm going to multiply here by 100. So I'm setting out the long way so you can see. All right, so let's go right ahead, and of course we are going to put our decimal place down. We're multiplying by powers of 10. So in this we have 2 zeros. We're going to put the 2 zeros down. Then we're going to take the 1, and of course, we're going to multiply it by 4. And of course, 4 1, 4. We're going to take this one multiplied by this 0, and we're going to get 0. And of course, take this 0 multiplied by 1, we're going to get 0. So in this case, we have 2 digits after our decimal place. And of course, we have 2 digits after our decimal place in our multiplicand, right? So our answer in this case is 4, because 004 is the same thing as 4, right? All right, we're going to take our dividend and we're going to do the same thing for our dividend. So we're going to take it right now. So we have 0.48, and we're going to multiply it by 100. All right, we're going to put our decimal place down. We must have only 2 digits coming after our decimal place. All right, so we have 2 powers of 10 right here in this 100. So we're going to put these 2 zeros down. All right, so 1 multiplied by 8 is going to give you 8. And of course, 1 multiplied by 4 is going to give you 4. 1 multiplied by 0 is going to give you 0. All right, so in this case, we have 48.00 working with. So let me rewrite this problem so we know exactly what we have working with. So we have 0.48 dividing by 4. That's the problem we have to work. All right, so we're going to go right ahead and we're going to set out the problem. Let's go right ahead and set the problem up. Remember now, 4 in this case is our divisor, and 0.48 is known as our dividend. All right, so we're going to go right ahead and work this problem. All right. First, you're going to ask yourself, can I get a group of 4 from 0? And of course, we can't, so I put 0 to say no. All right, then you're going to look to see the next digit that is a 9, which is 4. So how many groups of 4 can I get from this 4? Of course, I can get one group of 4s. All right, take this one and multiply it by 4, you're going to get 4. All right, now you're going to take away your 4 thing, and of course, you give away all 4 of it, you are left with 0. The next thing you're going to do is to bring down the next digit that is in line. And of course, the next digit is 8. It is in the 1 place. All right. So the next thing you are going to do is to say how many groups of 4 can you get from 8? And of course, you can get 2 groups. All right. So I'm going to write my 2 right here. So I'm going to take this 2 and multiply it by 4, and I'm going to get 8. I'm going to take away. And of course, you have 8 thing, you give away 8, you're left with 0. So what is next? We have our decimal place, so I put it back in my quotient. And of course, I have a 0 that is next in 9. I'm going to bring my 0 down. And of course, can I get a group of 4 from 0? And of course, we can't. So I'm going to say no by writing a 0 right there. All right, we have an next 0. So I'm going to bring it down. And of course, that's what we have. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is to say, can I get a group of 4 from this 0? We say no by writing another 0 in our quotient. So right here, our quotient is 12. Our quotient is 12 because 0.00 is the same thing as 12. All right. So let's prove to see if our answer is correct. And of course, you're going to take your quotient and multiply it by your divisor. All right, let's go right ahead and do it. So I have 0.12, sorry, I have 0.12.00, and of course, we're multiplying by 4. All right, so let's go right ahead and do this. All right, put my decimal place, and then we have 2 digits coming after our decimal place. 4 multiplied by 0 is 0. 4 multiplied by 0 is 0. And of course, you take 2 multiplied by 4, you get 8. Take 1 multiplied by 4, you get 1. And of course, 0 multiplied by 4, you have 0. All right? So look at this now. Our product is 48. All right? Which is the same thing as 0.48.00. And of course, in our dividend, we have 0.48.00, which is the same thing. All right? So guys, this is another problem that we have just solved together. All right. So I'm going to give you a minute or two to look at this problem. Then we're going to erase it and do another one. All right. All right. Let's erase this one and take another problem. All right. Of course, we have with us Tara, teacher's consultant. All right. And of course, she's saying good afternoon. from the Middle East. All right. Mega welcome to all the wonderful persons that are here with us from all over the world. All right. Thanks for making it Dijonae Educational Channel. And of course, we are live from Jamaica, Kingston, Jamaica. All right. So let's take the map. Here is another problem that we're going to be working together. And of course, we have 0.22 and we're dividing by 0.02. All right. Remember now we are dividing decimals by decimal. All right. So the next thing we are going to do is that we are going to identify our divisor. And in this problem, our divisor is 0.02 and 0.22 is our dividend. All right. So whatever we do to our divisor, we have to do the same thing to our dividend. All right. So we are going to take our divisor and of course we're going to write it down. Okay. I'm going to write it down. So that's 0.02. All right. So we're going to multiply by 100. The 2 is in the 100th place. All right. So we're multiplying by 100. And of course, yes. All right. So in this 100, remember we're multiplying by powers of 10. So we have 2 powers of 10 in 100, right? So when you're multiplying by powers of 10, you move to your right. All right. So we have 2 powers of 10. So we're going to be moving 2 places to our right. That's 1 move. And of course, that's 2 moves, right? So of course, our decimal place is now going to come after our 2. All right. So let's write the answer that we would get. All right. And the answer that we would get for that is that we would have 0.002 points. All right. And of course, that's what we would have, 0.00, which is the same thing as 2. All right. So that's the same thing as 2. All right. So now remember, whatever we do to our divisor, that's the same thing we need to do to our dividend. All right. So let's take our dividend and do the same thing for it. So we have 0.22 multiplied by 100. All right. So remember now, in 100, we have 2 powers of 10. And of course, we are going to move 2 places to our right. Let's do that. 1, 2. All right. So our decimal place is going to come right there. All right. So let's rewrite it so you can see what we have. All right. So write 0.22.00. All right. So what is it that we have working with now? Let me rewrite it. So this is what we have working with. 0.22.00. And of course, we are dividing by 2. So that's what we have working with. The aim was to change our divisor from a decimal to a whole number. Remember, when you are dividing decimal by decimal, you are to change your divisor from decimal to whole number. And remember, whatever power of 10 you use to do that, you use the same power of 10 to multiply your dividend. All right. So let's go right ahead and solve this problem. All right. So here I'm going to go right ahead and set the problem out. All right. So let's fix this. All right. So we have 0.22.00. And of course, we're dividing by 2. All right. So let's go right ahead and do this. All right, so now you're going to ask yourself, how many groups of 2's can you get from 0? We can't, so we'll put 0 right there. I'm going to take the next 0 that is in line and say, how many groups of 2's can you get from that 0? You can only get 0. So we're going to take the next digit that is in line, which is 2, and say, how many groups of 2's can we get from this 2? And of course, we can only get one group of 2's. All right, so we're going to take this one, multiply it by 2. Of course, we are going to get 2. We're going to take away now, and of course, we're going to have 0 left. We're going to look to see what is in line, which is numeral 2, and we're going to bring it right down. And now we're going to see how many groups of 2's can you get from this 2. You can also get one group. All right, so 2 multiplied by 1 again, we get 2. Draw your line, and of course, we are going to take away. You have 0 left. All right, so what is next? We have our decimal place, so we're going to put it in our quotient. And of course, we're going to bring down the next digit, which is another 0. All right, can we get a group of 2 from 0? No, we can't. So we're going to write 0 right there to say no, we can't. All right, the next thing we're going to do is to check to see if we have a next digit in line. And of course, we have another digit, which is 0, and we're going to bring it right down. Can we get a group of 2's? Or can we get some 2's from this 0? And of course, no, we can't get a group of 2 from 0. So we're going to put a 0 right there to say no. And of course, we are finished with that problem. Our quotient is 11, which we have right here, which is 0011.00. That's the same thing as 11. All right, so let's go right ahead and prove to see if our answer is correct. So we're going to take our quotient, and of course, we're going to multiply it by our divisor. That is 0011.00 multiplied by 2. All right. All right, put our decimal place down because we're multiplying by the small number. And of course, we have 2 digits after a decimal place. So therefore, we should only have 2 digits coming in our product. All right, 2 digits coming after a decimal place in our product. All right, so we're going to take this 0 and multiply it by 2. And of course, we're going to get 0. Any number you multiply by 0, you will get 0. Take this 0 multiplied by 2. And of course, that's 0. And we take 1 multiplied by 2, and of course, you get 2. 1 multiplied by 2, you're going to get 2. 0 multiplied by 2, you're going to get 0. And 0 multiplied by 2, of course, that is going to give us 0. All right? So that is our product. Remember, in a multiplication problem, your answer is known as your product. All right? So look carefully at it. Look carefully at your product. And now you're going to look to see if it is the same thing as your dividend. And of course, it is the same thing as our dividend. So this is telling us that, of course, our problem was correctly done. I'm going to give you some time to look at what we did together. All right? And of course, we have one more problem to work. We have one more problem to work. All right, so I'm going to erase this and we're going to take our last problem. All right, so we're going to go right ahead, and of course, we're going to work our last problem. And the last problem that we're going to be looking at is 0.36 divided by 0.4. All right, let's do this one together. So we have 0.36, and we're dividing by 0.4. All right, so in this case, we have 0.36, which is known as our dividend, and 0.4 is known as our divisor. So we're going to take our divisor, which is 0.4, and we're going to multiply it by 10. All right, why 10? Because 4 is in the 10th place, so we're going to be multiplying by 10. All right, so remember now, when you are multiplying by powers of 10, you are going to move to your right. So in this case, we have 1 power of 10, so we're going to be moving 1 decimal place to our right. So now the decimal places come after your 4. So what we would end up with is that we would have 4.0, which is the same thing as 4. All right. So I'm going to take the dividend, which is 0.36. And of course, I'm going to multiply it by 10. Why 10? Remember now, when you are changing your decimal to whole number, whatever you do to your divisor, you must do it to your dividend. So I multiply by 10 to get my divisor to a whole number. So I'm going to do the same thing with my dividend. All right. So I'm going to move 1 place to my right. So now my decimal place is come between the 3 and the 6. All right. So what our answer would look like is this. 3.60. All right. That is what our answer would look like. All right. If you do the long multiplication, you would see the same thing. All right. So let me just write the problem over after doing all of this working for you to see what is it that we have working with. So of course, our dividend is now going to be 3.60. And of course, we're dividing by 4. So that's what we have working with. All right. So let's go right ahead and do this problem. Look at the problem. Look at it carefully. And of course, we're going to go right ahead and we're going to work it together. All right, so the first thing you are to do is to set your problem out. All right, let's go right ahead and set this problem out. Remember now, we are solving to find our quotient, and your quotient is your answer. So we have 0. We have 0.360. You see, I keep on saying 0 point. All right, so here we have 3.60, which is the same thing as 3.60. All right, let's put in our divisor, which is 4. All right, so let's go right ahead. And of course, let us work together. All right, so let's work it. Ask yourself, how many groups of 4 can you get from 0? We can't. So of course, I'm going to put 0 there to say no, we can't. Then you're going to ask yourself, how many groups of 4 can you get from 3? No, we can't. So we'll put another 0 to say no, we can't. All right. And of course, let's do this together. Look carefully. All right. So what we're going to do, we're going to put back our decimal place. All right. We're going to put our decimal place right there. Then we're going to say to ourselves, how many groups of 4 can we get from 36? Because we're going to be putting 36. together right here. The 3 and the 6, we're going to put it together and we're going to get 36. All right. So how many groups of 4 can you get from 36? That's what we're asking ourselves now. And of course, 4 multiplied by 9 give you 36. So that is telling us that we can get 9 groups of 4. And of course, 9 multiplied by 4 or 4 multiplied by 9 is going to give us 36. We're going to draw a line. Of course, we're going to take away. You have 6 from 6, you're left with 0. 3 from 3, you're left with 0. All right? So the next thing we're going to do is to look to see what is in line. All right? So we have, of course, we have 0. We're going to bring down this 0. And of course, next, you're going to ask yourself, how many groups of 4 can you get from this 4? And of course, you can only get 0 groups of 4. All right? Let's go right ahead and look at this problem. And of course, look carefully at the problem. We are finished with that problem. We are finished with that problem. So what we're going to do next is that we are going to prove to see if our answer is correct. All right? So look at it. Let me give you some time to look at it. And of course, we're going to prove to see if our answer is correct. All right? All right. So let's go right ahead. And of course, let us work the problem now. All right? So I'm going to take my quotient, which is 0, 0.90. And of course, I'm going to multiply it by 4. And of course, remember the answer you get is known as your product. All right. So first, put your decimal place down. You should have only 2 digits coming after your decimal place. So 4 multiplied by 0 is going to give you 0. 4 multiplied by 9, of course, that's 36. Going to carry your 3 over to your, let me write my 3 properly, over to your 1's place. And of course, you are going to put your 6 down. All right. So the next thing you're going to do is to multiply 4 by 0 or 0 by 4. You're going to get 0. And of course, you're going to add 3 to 0. You're going to have 3. I'm going to take my 0 next. And of course, I'm going to multiply it by 4. And of course, I'm going to get 0. Because any number you multiply by 0, of course, you get 0. All right. So look at my product now. My product is 0.30. And of course, that's the same thing we have in our division problem, which is, the quotient that we have here is 0.360. And of course, this is telling us that our working was properly done. All right. So that's the end of this problem. Thank you for making it. Dijonae Jaynae Educational Channel. Until next time, I'm signing out of Math Hour and I'm Debra-kaye. Bye, bye, bye. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for watching. If you're on the replay, you can leave a comment on the outside so that we know that you were here.